There are many reasons you might be looking for a new church home. Maybe you've moved, or maybe the leadership at your church changed and you just can't get on board with the new way of doing things. It's especially hard if you've been with the same church for many years.
Yeah. Rich and I have had to find a new church home over the past few years. And today we're just going to share a little bit about our experience in doing that.
So stick around and come on this journey with us. Hi, I'm Rich.
And I'm Robbie, and you found our channel before it's too late.
Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about our effort to find a new church after we moved. We're hoping that maybe we can help some other people who find themselves in a similar circumstance or are looking to change churches for whatever reason. So we're going to give a few ideas and a look into the process that we followed. If we help you out at all, it'd be great if you'd like the video. We'd really love it if you'd subscribe to our channel. And what we've really found encouraging over the last few weeks is the comments that people have left. And they've helped us, and hopefully they've helped some other people. So if you would leave a comment, that would be great. So if you come to the conclusion that you need to find a new church, again, we moved, so we didn't really have a lot of choice. The first thing you need to do is have a discussion with your partner
Yeah.
about what that new church needs to look like. So Robbie and I had some different requirements, I guess, of a new church, and it was important that we talked about it before we went looking.
Yeah, and we did do a lot of talking. For me, I definitely wanted a church that was Bible based. Basically, what I mean by that is the Bible was opened and was preached from, scripture was read, and definitely I wanted a church that clearly talked about the need for salvation and the gift of um, salvation that Jesus gives to us. That's kind of what were the two main big things on my list.
And for me, it needed to be a welcoming environment,
Yeah.
and the way that I kind of get into a worshiping spirit, I guess, is through the music. So,
Mhm.
and I'm a contemporary Christian sort of guy, and so I like the worship music that motivates me and gets me in the right frame of mind to let Jesus into my heart during
Mhm.
that time. I mean, I'm hoping that he's there all the time. I know he is, but I'm just saying when I'm going to a service, I want it to be one that is encouraging to me right from the beginning. And a lot of times that starts with the music.
Rich and I pretty much knew what we were looking for. One of the big things that we also agreed upon is we wanted a church that we could form connections in.
And there's a lot of churches out there that spend a lot of time promoting small group structure.
Yeah.
And that was important to us. We wanted to find a group of people that were in a similar life stage as us. And we were looking for lifetime connections,
Mhm.
as we empty nesters, we don't have kids around to dote on. So we're really looking for people that we could not only attend church with, but kind of do life with.
Do life with, yeah. Right after Rich and I married, we had to relocate due to Rich's job, which put us in immediately in an area where we did not have a church and we needed to find a church.
So we did. We started looking around. We attended several churches, and it was November of 2019 when we
Yeah.
moved, and then of course COVID hit in March of 20, and that shut down the churches. I mean, we spent some time before that, like several different churches, and we had told ourselves at one point we would try a church 3 times
Yeah.
before we decided whether we liked it or we didn't like it. And we were doing that. We tried several churches in that area and hadn't settled on one when COVID hit.
Because of COVID, just as many of you did, we began to watch church online.
And COVID forced a lot of churches to come into the streaming world for the
Mhm.
first time. And we tried at first to watch churches that were local to where we were living so that when hopefully COVID passed, we could join a church that was local. But we really didn't find one
Mm-mm.
online even that we enjoyed the message and enjoyed the music to the point that we would want to go there and attend. So we ended up watching a church from across the country, a whole bunch during that time.
Right.
And then it just so happened we had to move again in a
Yeah.
few months, and we ended up in the Kansas City area.
After we moved to Kansas City, we basically got settled in and started the process all over again. We had the same idea that we were going to try a church 3 times in a row before we made any decisions about it. We did look things up online before, basically, kind of looking at their mission statements and seeing, okay, is this a church that we even do want to try?
And we tried many churches.
Yeah.
And again, it was August, September, October of 20. So COVID was still going pretty strong. So churches were in and out. Some of them were only having one service, then online services, whatever. But we were same process again, going several times trying to figure it out. And we started out by going to the church closest to where we moved to,
Yeah.
and we didn't like it at all.
Nope.
Even though we had told ourselves we were going to go 3 times before we made a decision, we looked at each other after the first time and said, "Yep, that one's not going to be the one."
That's right.
So we moved on right away. So the next church we tried was a little bit farther away, and it had a real good feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
We went actually at least 3 times, probably more than that, because we thought we were enjoying it. But honestly, the music at that particular church was a little too, I don't know, I guess I would say they were trying to blend secular music with worship music, and it just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
The messages were pretty good.
Yeah, the messages were decent, and they definitely were preaching from the Bible. There was salvation message, and we did go for what, maybe 4 or 5 months, 6 months.
I don't know if it was that long, but
Okay.
it was
But there still was just some uneasiness about it.
right. And then it just so happened that a friend of mine from my new job invited us to church, and we started to go to the church that they went to, and we got connected in there pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually joined a small group,
Yeah.
and we're getting connected there too.
I think one of the things that was drawing for us for that church was the friendliness.
Yeah,
Like there was people that welcomed us, and even though maybe we weren't super happy with the music or um, little things like that, there definitely still was just a draw because of the people.
yeah, and we got connected in a small group.
Mhm.
We actually started doing some volunteering at that church,
Yeah,
but I think there was just we weren't settled there,
right.
right? It
Mm-mm.
just didn't. I mean, the music was,
Not what you liked.
it definitely wasn't. It was more of a
Traditional.
traditional.
Hmm.
I'm not saying hymns, but
Yeah,
yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't spurring me like I needed to you know, get going on a Sunday morning.
yeah.
And
The messages were good. They were definitely Bible based. But yeah, there still was just, and we attended there for,
over a year,
yeah. But there just still was still some unrest, I would say,
right?
for us. Hmm.
And then actually, a coworker, Robbie, invited us to back to the church that's closest to our house,
Yeah.
the one that we kind of rejected after the first
After
day,
one visit, we said no.
right? And we went back there, and something on that Sunday
Yeah.
just really resonated with me. Some of the music that was played that day really, struck my heart.
Yeah, and the message was great. And I think one thing we learned later was when we attended the first time to that particular church, they were actually in the middle of a leadership change, which we had no idea, right? But for whatever reason, I think God was saying, "No, not right now. This is not where you should be right now." And then a couple years later, when we went back, the leadership had changed. There was definitely a different vibe, I guess, if you want to say that,
For
to the
sure, yeah.
church. And it just clicked. Everything clicked that first day.
Right. And we were looking for a multi-generational church. We didn't
Yes.
we didn't want a church that was made up of a bunch of grandmas and grandpas. We wanted to be able to um, see kids coming up
Yeah.
through the church. And
Yeah.
this church, over the last, and now we've been there 2 years,
Right.
and it is just growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And we're seeing babies and
Mhm.
kids of all ages, all the way up through grandmas and grandpas, and it's just a thriving church, and it feels good to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely has the criteria that I was looking for, and I think it definitely has the criteria that you
Yeah,
were
for
looking
sure.
for. And then the thing that we wanted together was to be able to get involved, to be in community. Rich now leads a small group of other couples that are in our same stage of life, and that's been great. And Rich is able to volunteer, and I volunteer. There's just a lot of good draws for us.
So I guess the moral, I guess, of our story is we didn't feel good about where we were until we got to this church.
Yeah.
And to say, I would admit that it was discouraging along the way. Like, why are we so picky?
Yeah.
And why, what is it about
Why
this
does-
church
yeah.
that doesn't feel right, but
Right.
yet this church also doesn't feel right?
Right.
And it was
It was discouraging.
It was discouraging.
Yeah.
But now that we're where we are now, it does feel like just God was leading us to
Yep.
this church.
Yeah. And I think too, we prayed about it too.
A lot.
Okay, God, if this is not where you want us to be, then don't let us feel at home, right? And
Open another door for
open
us.
another door. Yeah. And he did. He did.
Yeah. So I guess we promised you some tips and tricks. So I think what we want to do is just, kind of close this with some thoughts
Yeah.
as you move forward. Number one, if you're in a church that, or if you're going to a church that you're not settled in, like whether it's your soul that's not settled or whether you just haven't been there long enough to be settled, don't feel like you have to stay. I mean, kind of depends, I guess, on where you live and whether you have a bunch of options. But for us, Kansas City,
there's lots of choices.
hundreds of churches, right? So if you have the option, don't settle for a place that doesn't make you want to come to it. Like
Right.
inside, you should feel like that's where I need to be today, and that is, find a good fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, making sure that you are challenged by that church. When you walk away after the message, after the service, after the worship, is your heart challenged? Is God speaking to you because of the message or through the music? I think those are important things to look at too. You don't want it just to be a ritual. Get up, go to church every Sunday morning. It should be about getting up, wanting to go to church, wanting to worship God, wanting to hear from God, and then leaving that with a breath of fresh air for the week that you have ahead of you.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for if you invest in a church, you'll get more from it too.
Yeah.
So once you do feel like you've found a place that you could call home, start getting involved.
Yes.
Start seeing what's there for you to kind of open your eyes to more of what the church has to offer you, and also what you have to offer the church.
Right.
All of us have some gifts that we can help other people with, that we can show Jesus's love through acts of service to people that you don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yeah, so just be ready, or again, that's a stage of life thing. I mean, everybody doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to do a whole bunch of volunteering. We don't have kids at home anymore, so we have some time. We're able to attend more than one service if they need some help.
Yeah, I think we just really want to encourage you to be patient as you're going through this process. Be persistent. Keep trying. Be prayerful. Keep asking God to show you, to give you direction and clear wisdom about if you should continue or not continue in the church that you are at.
And just keep in mind, just because you've gone to a church and maybe you've gone to the welcome class and they've given you a welcome gift even, that doesn't mean you're committed to that church. It has to speak to you. It has to feel right. And, there's one out there. So, don't give up. Like Robbie said, be patient. The one that you're going to call home and that you're going to feel comfortable with and that you're going to be able to grow your relationship with God is just waiting for you to walk through the door. Okay, so that's it for this topic. I hope maybe we've helped you. Again, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. If there's another tip that you can give folks about helping them along their journey to find a new church, leave it down there. You never know who you're going to touch through this medium. So And that's something we found out, especially in the last several weeks. So we appreciate you watching us. And again, like the video if you haven't subscribed already and you got this far. I hope you do. And leave a comment. And most of all, thanks for watching.
And
God bless.